Hello all, today we will discuss about the Anglo standard and the best practices that we need to be take care when we are developing our application. So the first thing that we need to be take care is avoid using the any type. So let's switch to the code and try to understand. As we all know, TypeScript is a type checking language. So there may be a situation when we don't know what kind of content we are expecting. So in that case we will use a variable as a type any. We can declare that, but it is not a smarter way to always use a any in front of every variable. So because the thing is, by using the any we are instructing the TypeScript to bypass the type checking. This will put our code at a high risk of cost and very hard to trace when we are debugging any problem. Let's say if I am assigning anything over here, whether it is a string or you can say a floating value, I can assign anything. Okay, so if I have defined its type over here, let's say I have defined its the type string. So now I am telling the TypeScript I am only able to assign a string value to this variable. If I am trying to assign any number here, so at that time I am start getting a compilation error which says type number is not assignable to the type string. So it's better to use a predefined, or you can say a proper type of variable declaration. So now the error goes because we are assigning a string value to the string variable. Next is try to use the latest ECMAScript 6 feature. So what are those ECMAScript features? You can basically see the difference between the let versus char and the arrow function and the spread operator. Try to use this technique in your coding pattern, so it will give you the most effective way of the coding. So let's take a look on few of them. Let's switch to the code. So first example is the let versus the char. So what exactly the difference between these two? So when we don't have the let and the let keyword in our TypeScript, so we are using the var. So the drawback of using the var variable, its scope is not constrained where we want to define it. By what I'm trying to say is, let's say you having a for loop and you have declared a variable I using the var keyword, and what you are doing is basically we are alerting the value of I by incrementing it, right? So if I am trying to access the value of the I outside the for loop, it shouldn't be, because what we want to be define is the variable, the scope of I should be between these for loop only. I don't want to be extend the scope of the I beyond that for loop. But when we are using the var, its scope is still accessible outside the loop. So let's take an example. We have one dummy example. I click on the let versus var. You will see first value of the I is 0. Then it start incremented the value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. You will see the outside the loop value, still outside the loop I is accessible. So to fix this, we have a let keyword introduced by the ECMAScript. Now if I save this and try to access the value of I outside the loop, you will see I am getting the error over here. Can't find the value of I, and I am also getting a error over there. So to overcome the scope constraint, we will use the let keyword instead of the var. So this is the first thing. And also we will use that. Let's say take an example of this. I have this variable let name is equal to, that's my name, Ankush. Okay, and now what I will try to do is I will try to access my name in the alert value name. Okay, and simply you will see initial way, if I have to append the value, my name is like this, something like this, right? So now I go to my this, you will see my name is this. Okay, so if I want to be again change my name below, so I can do that, right? New name, and now again I am alerting the value. you will see first my name is Ankush, then its value got updated. So we have another keyword in the TypeScript, that is const. So what is the difference between the const and the let? When you are defined, like your value shouldn't be changed. Let's say you call an API and you should sure about that it's you don't want to be changed the value of that particular variable, then we will use the constant in place of the let keyword. Okay, so that means since you will see compiler will start throwing me error, I can't change the value because cannot assign a name because it is a constant. Constant means you only assign a value once. Okay, so this is the first thing that we have to use. And now let's see the modern string manipulation that is provided by the ECMAScript. This is the old way of doing that. So let's say another way of doing the string manipulation. So let's say that is used by the backticks of the ECMAScript. Okay. Now instead of this concatenation and everything, what I will do, I will use the latest syntax using the dollar and the curly braces. Inside the curly braces, I will pass my dynamic variable simple as it is. Now if I hit save and try to see my browser output, you will see first name is Ankush and then your value is getting updated automatically. So this is how we can improve our coding techniques. So next is the arrow function. So let's say you have an array in which you have three records, user ID 1, 2 and 3, out of which 2 are active and 1 is non-active. Okay, so we quickly want to filter, either we have to be loop through to the each record, what other way we have to, we will use the arrow function. In this what we are doing is we are accessing an array and then we are filtering array using this arrow functions syntax, and then we are returning only a active user. And now in my function, if I am trying to access it, you will see what I am consoling only a active user. Right now in my array I have a 3 records, right? So if I am trying to console my array first with the users and then I am filtering my user. Okay, so let's see, these are our all users and below are my active users. Switch back to the browser, open your console. Now hit the arrow function button, you will see first I am getting the all users 3 records, then I am getting the filter users. Okay, so in this way we will see how we'll use the arrow functions to optimize our coding technique. So the next thing that ECMAScript provided us is the latest way of how we can define our functions. Initially what we are doing is, let's say you have a person object, it has the property first name, last name, and then if we have to be define any function, what we have to be do, we first we will define the function name and then we will define our way. This is the old way of declaring any function inside a particular object. Okay, so now what we will do is we will simply give it a name, full name, and then we will concatenate a name and simply return to this. If I have to be change this using the latest instance, use the backticks and then the value using the dollar sign inside the curly braces and then give it a space, and again you will use the dollar value curly braces and then your second value. So this is how we can improve our coding technique using the latest ECMAScript feature. One more feature we have, that is using the spread operator. So basically if you don't know how, but the spread operator is basically when we want to combine the multiple arrays. Let's say you have a two array of the user 1 and the user 2, it consists of some values and you want to combine it. In old way what we are doing is we will simply concatenate these two arrays. Okay, and if we have to append any new language or you can say a new variable inside that particular array, then we have to perform a iteration through all the loops. So but with the help of the spread operator, it is easy to append that particular array. Firstly, this is how we can append that using the three dots your variable, comma, using three dots the next array. In this we will get a combined array in which we have a 6 record, and if you want to be append any new user inside that particular array, then simply add a comma, pass the new value, or either it is an object you can pass it, and then your next add set of users and then your next user. In this way we can append a user at any place or at any index the way you want, the way your business logic says. So let's quickly test this. This is our console window. I click the spread. You will see firstly I am getting a 6 using the concatenation. This is the old way of doing so, and the same output will be given by the spread operator. And same if I have to be append any new user like this, you will see I am able getting a 8 records inside that. In this way we will save our time while doing a code using the ECMAScript features. There are many more ways, but for this demo I am only showing these 3 features. Next is use the trackBy along with the ngFor directive. In and when in your Angular application that uses the simple ngFor directive without the trackBy function, what it will do, it will destroy your own DOM element, then reconstruct them in a DOM tree. That means whenever you are refreshing your DOM or refreshing your list, or you can say simply reloading a page without its data being changed, it will be whole reconstructed in your DOM. But if you added a trackBy function on your HTML template, as I am showing over here on your list trackBy, and then your trackBy function, let's say you are tracking the user by code. For example, over here your code is not being changed on your filter, then it will not reconstruct your whole DOM. It will be only reconstructed when its code will be changed. In this way we will improve our performance using the trackBy. In case when you have a large set of data, it will be increase your performance. Next thing is use the lazy loading. The process of lazy loading using the various modules such as the document, JS, your style sheets, videos and other assets that you have in your application, that is known as the lazy loading. By splitting the application load time into the several packets and loading them as we need, it will accelerate our application load time. Lazy loading can be helpful when we are using a large application rather than utilizing the other function to load the modules. When anything is used, lazy loading only loads that particular piece of information from the server, or you can say instead of loading a whole component as a one. How we can use that? In your routing, here where you have specified your route, at that time you will see or mention which module you want to be load at with which route. Okay, so the next thing is prevent the memory leaks in your Angular observables. So what happen is when your first component is removed and the second component is initialized, when we are actually moving from one to another, at that point of time what happen is our initial component which is subscribed to the observable has been removed, and this will lead to the memory leaks. How we can prevent that? Using the take until method. Take until method, what it is doing is basically take until method monitors the second observables, and when the value of the observable is generated, it will then dispose of the subscription and completes the cycle in it. You will see over here when we are calling a get user list, take until will first wait for the, or basically monitors it the subscription, and then it will complete the subscription cycle when we are moving to the another. If we are moving to the another, it will basically destroy its previous subscription and your cycle will be completed. Another way we can prevent is using the async pipes. Basically it returns the most recent value emitted from your subscription, or your, you can say, the promise thing. Here you have a list of it, and instead you will simply use the async pipe, and this will only emit your latest value. And the another way we can prevent it using the take one. Take one basically make sure us our data will only get or reloaded at once at a time. Okay, so next thing is avoid logic in the template. No matter how your logic is corrected, or you can say the better, it shouldn't be implemented on the template side, because every your functional code is in on the component TypeScript file. It will help the unit testing to cut down the issues or even prevent the template change occur in the future. Next best thing is declare the safe data types. That means whenever we are defining our roles, let's say take an example, you have a role, define it, right? You have two kind of roles, admin and the user, and you are defining your variables like the user 1, 2 and 3 and assigning the role in it, right? And you have defined a role that is not existed. So in this way we will prevent our data type to be a safe value shouldn't be assigned that is not existed into our, you can say, a database or into your system. So it will throws us a compile time error. This value is not a safe data type, right? Next is the user CDK virtual scroll. CDK is basically a component development kit to present a lengthy list of component, which is more effective way using the virtual scroll. By setting the container height to the same sum of the element height, virtual scrolling make it possible to visualize it in a easy manner. Next thing that we need to be take care is using the environment variables. Since for all type of contexts, Angular provides us the various environment setup to declare the individual variables. By default, Angular will provide us the two kind of environment variables. If we open our application and I close this, under the environments you have a two type of environments, like the dev environment in which you will specify your dev variables, something like this, and in your production file you will define your production kind of variables over there. So the next thing is using the lint rules. Basically the TS lint provide us the number of built-in parameters that can be consumed in your TS lint JSON file, including no any, no console, no magic number, etc. The program is forced to be the better and the more reliable result. You can configure it your own lint rules and the setting. This guarantees and basically clarifies the coherence of our code. Next thing is maintain your proper folder structure. Before beginning of the any Angular project, everyone should take this thing into your account, and it is very important creating and maintaining a correct folder structure throughout your development cycle. The folder structure should be adaptable to the new development practices also, you can say, and future needs also. Next thing is break your large component into the small reusable component. That means if we are developing a large application, we should be split our component in such a way we can reuse it in the multiple places. Let's say take an example, you build a component named as the confirmation dialog, right? So in the confirmation dialog, what kind of operation we have? We have a OK button and the cancel button, and we just want to be notify a user. In that confirmation dialog we have to be pass the message dynamically, right? So what we will do, we will create our custom method, or you can say a custom component, in which we will simply pass a message and an action to it, right? In that way what we will do, we will create a simple or split a component into our application, and we will reuse that into a multiple places. Next thing is the state management in your application. One of the most challenging area of the software development is the state development. By saving the state of any sort of data into your Angular management facility, handling its state transition, we have multiple options like the ngrx, ngxx and the Akita and the other state library in the Angular that is available in the market. Each of them serves a different purpose. The ideal state management for our application can be chosen before it's put in use, means basically when we are putting it into the live environment. Some of the advantages that we have using the state manager, and it allows us to share a data between the multiple components. Means when suppose you have a user logged in and you want to be use its data as in a multiple component places, so if you store it in a proper way, that or in a secure way basically, then you can use its data into a multiple places, right? and it also allows us for the centralized transition control. The code should be cleaner and easy to read, and also it's more easy to troubleshoot your code if something goes wrong. The next thing is documentation in the code. So it's very necessary when we are defining something, we must define or put some comments into our code. Let's take an example that we have into our screen. I have a function get user is in which I am passing one variable in a number type, and I am expecting a string value in it, right? So what I have defined its definition, what's its parameter means to, and what it is returning a value. So whenever a new user come to your code, it will see the method definition and the param values definition. So it's easy to code us, right, if we have document in a proper way. Next thing is the single responsibility principle. It is very important when we are building our Angular application. We will assign our component or assign our services in such a manner it will only place a single responsibility. Instead of grouping all code into a single TS file, it's better to split them into a small components, and its responsibility should be single to perform only a single operation. Next thing is using the interface. Whenever drafting a contract for our class, we must employ our interfaces. By utilizing them, we can compel the class to implement the attribute functions started in the interface. Let's say you have a home component class that implements on it or on destroy interfaces. So interfaces are the best techniques to accurately describe the declared object. Let's take an example. You have a user interface and that you want to be define it into your application or use it into your application. So we will simply implement that or inherit that interface and implement into our application. Next thing is the change detection optimization. What do you mean by change detection optimization? Instead of hiding the non-visible DOM component with the style sheet, it's good to remove them from the DOM element using the ngIf directive. And also we have to be transfer the difficult computation into the ng do check lifecycle hook to make our expression faster instead of calculating them. And calculation, if your calculation are more complex, it should be better to cache them. And also use the on push change detection method to tell Angular no changes has been made. You are then able to bypass the entire change of the detection procedure. So in this way we can improve our change detection optimization. And your last but not the least is the use your dumb and the smart component techniques, by which what I mean to say is by informing the Angular that the dumb component has not been changed. Dumb component, why I mean is basically in which we are only displaying a our view, or you can say some readable data, and that we don't want to be change it. So what we will do is we will simply on the push detection change mechanism, we will simply tell them this is a dumb component, we don't want to be detect that. And on comparison to the smart components that has been employed by processing the API's call, we will only concentrate on their mechanism, which will make our application faster. I hope this will help you to improve your performance in your Angular development lifecycle. Thanks for watching.